Congressman Dave Weldon was not the product of wealth, class, or privilege. Dave Weldon was the product of values. The son of a postal worker father and an elementary school teacher mother, Weldon was, from an early age, taught values. Baptized in the Catholic Church, Weldon adopted the values of the American middle class. Later, as a member of the political world, the congressman was to learn that not everyone would understand those values in the same way.
Congressman Hall tells a wonderful story of how he was saved after he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives and went back to his district and was introduced at an event as being both a Christian and a congressman, at which point a man sitting in the front row said, "Make up your mind, Mr. Hall. You can't be both."
Family was important in those formative years, even a family which included older sisters. Young David's parents did not equip the future congressman with a sense of entitlement. After high school, Weldon paid his way through school by working as a lab technician and by accepting a U.S. Army scholarship to medical school. Later, as a physician, Weldon's values would impact the treatment of his patients.
And let me just say from the outset that I used to take care of AIDS patients before I came to this Congress back in 1994. I was one of only 2 physicians in a county of 400,000 people that was seeing AIDS patients. And I have announced my retirement, my intent to leave the House of Representatives at the conclusion of this Congress, and I will most likely go back to seeing patients in January, and I may indeed be seeing AIDS patients again. And let me additionally say that I'm very concerned about the situation in Africa. Indeed, I have gone to Africa twice in my term of service here in the Congress, specifically to look at the issue of helping in Africa with the issues of AIDS and malaria and TB.
Weldon's core values include patriotism, which he probably learned from his father, an infantryman from World War II. During his undergraduate schooling at State University of New York at Stony Brook, the future congressman was attracted to and eventually fell in love with Nancy Sarabak, a fellow student. Soon, Dr. Weldon and Nancy started life as a family with daughter Katie and son David. From a private life as an internist, Dave Weldon was called to a different kind of public service when in 1994 he first ran for the U.S. House of Representatives. In his 14 years, Weldon has championed many causes and led many battles for his constituents and his district. His passion for space has led many of his colleagues to consider him to be the go-to expert on that subject on the Hill.
Yesterday, NASA announced that with the retirement of the space shuttle, they are going to be laying off over 6,500 people in East Central Florida, my congressional district. That is a huge amount of people. It has a huge economic impact on the state of Florida. And for us to be putting our astronauts on Russian rockets, we're going to have to sign a contract with the Russians for the construction of these rockets. We're essentially going to be laying off people in Florida and hiring people in Russia with U.S. taxpayers. Now, this Congress, under this Democratic leadership, is saying that we have no choice. We cannot afford to continue to fly the shuttle in 2011, 2012, 2013. We cannot afford to bring the new rocket system online any sooner than 2005 or 2006. We don't have the money. While we have all this money to send $50 billion to Africa for AIDS. Now, again, let me just say, I understand this is a terrible problem. I don't even mind increasing the Africa AIDS account, but to be increasing it, and what to me is insult on top of injury, my staff has informed me that they have $1 billion in this account unspent.
As a physician, Weldon is looked to as an expert on many issues of critical importance. For example, President Bush asked Dr. Weldon to travel to Africa to look into the AIDS crisis there. His knowledge as a physician and his do what's right values have sometimes led Dr. Weldon to oppose the administration, as with the government's use of the mercury preservative thimerosal in children's vaccines.
As a physician, I strongly support vaccinating children and adults. Indeed, I gave a lot of vaccines. Immunizing kids against flu is a particularly good idea. It prevents the kids from getting the flu, but it also, because children have bad personal hygiene and they tend to spread the flu around if they get it, by vaccinating kids and preventing them from getting the flu, you actually prevent adults from getting the flu. And certainly I believe the American Academy of Pediatrics is a great organization, as are the public health officials who do the work in administering these vaccines, even though they are complaining about my amendment. Let me just state from the outset, my amendment simply implements the policy that the American Academy of Pediatrics established in 1999 when they stated, quote, "The Public Health Service, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and vaccine manufacturers agree that thimerosal-containing vaccines should be removed as soon as possible." My amendment does nothing more than implement that policy. Thimerosal is a mercury-containing preservative that is toxic. If I brought some thimerosal to this chamber, spilled it on that table, we would have to evacuate the chamber. That is how toxic it is. Now, in 1999, the manufacturers, in coordination with the AAP, the CDC, and the drug industry, removed all of the mercury from all of the childhood vaccines in 18 months. They removed it from the DPT, the Hib, the hepatitis B. 18 months after adopting that policy in 1999, all of the pediatric vaccines had been produced and manufactured without any mercury in them. And then in 2004, a decision was made to add flu vaccine to the vaccine schedule for children. And since that time, it has been very difficult for me to get the American Academy of Pediatrics and the CDC and the manufacturers to take this issue seriously and get the mercury out of the childhood vaccines.
In 2004 and 2005, there were several concerns following the devastating hurricanes that hit areas of Weldon's district. Of no small concern was the impact on the tourism-rich beaches of Brevard County, and Weldon's continued effort to renourish those beaches. Few issues called on Congressman Weldon's full expertise and credibility as a physician, combined with his value-driven agenda, than the congressional debate on stem cell research.
Adult stem cells and umbilical cord blood stem cells have not only been shown to be safe in clinical therapeutics, they've also been tested not only in animals and shown to be safe, but they've been given to human beings and shown to be effective and to work, whereas embryonic stem cells have a chronic problem, you might say. They form tumors, a specific type of tumor called a teratoma in every animal study in which they've been used. And before embryonic stem cells could ever be used in any clinical application whatsoever, they have to first be shown to be safe, and for them to be shown to be safe, somebody has to turn off this property that they have to form tumors.
Even though Weldon's testimony is often about some very weighty issues, that doesn't mean he can't also look on the light side.
And what I object to in this bill is the way you've brought this to the floor. You've got subsidies for spinach. You know, my constituents are asking, who put that in the bill? Popeye?
In addition to the kinds of floor debates we've all seen Weldon participate in, the doctor has also done all the other typical political activities, such as Weldon's memories from his 14 years in Congress will have to be, if nothing else, varied. From his time with his congressional band, the Second Amendments, to his visits with famous American presidents. While Weldon didn't do as many overseas trips as some other congressmen, he was able to travel to Iraq on 2 occasions. While there, he visited with troops. And he met with members of the Iraqi parliament, including some of the first women ever to hold office in that nation. Of course, Weldon has many skills not widely known by the general public. With all of that political experience, one would expect Weldon would be able to predict the woman whom his party would choose as their vice presidential candidate. There is one woman in Weldon's life who has been there from the beginning, and the congressman is always quick to give her credit for helping him maintain the values in his life that always kept him on course. Fortunately for the members of Florida's District 15, Congressman Weldon's values have served us well for 14 important years.